Now, I wouldn't suggest taking all the money you have in savings and running around out and doing this, but taking a portion of it, a balanced portion, and investing it. Investing it in things that will actually have value or an increased value. Now, if we were rich and wealthy, you'd go, oh, in fact, I was at a Italian festival, and there was a bunch of cars, a Lamborghini, a Ferraris, gorgeous cars. And the guy turns to me and he says, do you know which one of those is the most value? I went, the Lamborghini. He says, no, that little Fiat over there. It's just a little kind of ordinary looking Fiat. There was only 100 of them made. It was an $800,000 car. And he said, and he goes, yeah, he said $795, $800,000 for it. He's been offered $1.2 million for a car. Not too bad. I don't have that kind of money. So what can you invest in if you can't invest in a Ferrari or a Fiat and those kind of things? Well, you should invest in things that in an emergency, whether great or small, will have investment and have intrinsic value. For example, you're going to be stuck on a desert island and you have a hairdryer and a curling iron. Of any intrinsic value while stuck on a, not unless it happens to be Maui or all that kind of stuff, but no, has no value whatsoever, as opposed to a box of matches and a Boy Scout knife. So, you know, having a blow dryer and a curling iron, no value. Box of matches and a Boy Scout knife, huge amount of value. How about a gold brick? You know, I'd love to have a gold brick. But on a desert island, I'd rather have a matches, you know, I'd rather have a 10-cent box of matches and a, you know, a $10 Boy Scout knife than the gold brick. Gold brick's not going to do anything for you. Won't clothe you, won't shelter you, won't feed you, won't do anything, but the box of matches and the knife will. So what are those kind of things that you could get right now that are relatively inexpensive, that you could store a fair amount of quantity of that item and would have a greater intrinsic value than maybe even hard dollars would be after a disaster? I already mentioned one of them, matches. You know, those little box of matches or book matches or something like that. If there is a long-term power outage and you're not able to use your electric stove or something else, people are going to have to be lighting candles. They're going to have to be lighting lanterns and stoves and all kinds of things, making fires. They're going to need matches. Matches is something that would be highly valuable. Can openers. A manual can opener. In fact, even those little P38, you know, the military ones that cost, you can probably get them for 25 cents. Right now, they're 25 cents. After an emergency, if you don't have a can opener, how valuable would that be? How valuable would that be to trade with somebody else, or to be able to give to somebody else, or to use for any kind of exchange purposes? Toilet paper. Toilet paper right now is incredibly inexpensive. If there were a major emergency, it would be incredibly expensive. So in the Bosnian, he wrote an article about the war in Bosnia, and the thing that they valued most, and the hardest to get, and they wanted the most, one was toilet paper. And that's not too difficult. You know the other thing they wanted? Escapist novels. They wanted paperback novels or something like that that were just escapist, that would take them out of the doldrum of their lives and take them mentally to somewhere else. Because they didn't have DVDs, there was no power, no movies, no. What way could you use to escape the drudgery of your life was escapist novels. Now that's something I'd never contemplated before. So, what else could you have that is relatively inexpensive that would have a great deal of value later on? Duct tape, plastic sheeting, gasoline. Storing some gasoline. Now, I'm sure there's firemen out there going, you should never store gasoline in your home. Well, store some gasoline. Safely store some gasoline. Rice, bouillon cubes, plywood, sugar. Had a guy had a list that said magnifying glasses. It's kind of right in there with that, you know, escapist novels. Why magnifying glass? Well, if you don't happen to have these around, and glasses are hard to come by, magnifying glasses would be very beneficial. You can also use them to start fires, use them for medical purposes of looking in wounds and those kind of things. I mean, a magnifying glass would be relatively inexpensive, but have a higher value afterwards. Also, small AM/FM radios. If you had, most of us now don't have, we have one in our car, we have that, but we don't have small little AM/FM radios. If there are news to be had, but you have no way of hearing that news, those little radios could be worth 100 times more than they would cost to get now. You can buy them, I sell them for about $5 a piece, $3 to $5 a piece. A little expensive. Well, the solar ones are a little more expensive than that. I have hand crank ones, but those, they're relatively inexpensive, but would be hugely valuable after either a short-term or long-term emergency. I also, a couple of weeks ago, talked about having a list, and I put out a thing that was called the 100 Things That Disappear First. Let me have it in here somewhere, I thought. Yeah, it's also available on my website as a PDF file for free. You can go on my cpr.com/learn, and there's a list of PDF files. One of them is 100 Things That Disappear First. I put them in groups, but almost anything on this list is one of those things that would probably have a greater degree of intrinsic value after an emergency than it does right now. And so that would be something worth having, not only having for your person, but also having some extras to use as money.